With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. It's easy to find time to eat well with 50 wholesome, hassle-free meals to choose from each week delivered to your door. Their lineup of prep and bake meals come together with minimal mess and only 5 minutes of prep. So your oven does most of the work, not you. Get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals. Based on a randomized, controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto, results will vary depending on diet and exercise. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
Have you ever been lectured on the horrors of fast food? Have you been warned about the long-term health implications of frequenting Mickey D's or one of its competitors? Have you ever eaten so many slices or tacos or chicken nuggets that you frightened yourself? Fast food can be scary. Welcome to Strange and Unexplained with me, Daisy Egan. When I'm not trying desperately to eat healthy and encouraging a balanced diet for my family, I am huddled in my driver's seat dipping my Egg McMuffin into my Frosty McFlurry or whatever the hell they call it. Come on, everyone eats fast food sometimes. Some people eat it as a regular part of their diet, while others reserve it for road trips, busy days, late nights, and those special moments when you want to support anti-LGBTQIA+ lobbyists with your food dollars. Either way, fast food is an undeniable part of the landscape of American life. But what if I told you it is also a part of the landscape of American death, and not the way you're thinking? Today we will be exploring the secret menu of fast food hauntings that plague fast food restaurants across the country, and the creepy residue they leave behind. And I don't mean the French fry grease. Miamisburg, Ohio is a little suburb of Dayton, Ohio, but long ago, before it was incorporated, it was a little hamlet known as Holesville. I guess I'm not surprised they changed the name. Wow, I can already see the fast food associations. Miami's Burger, Donut Holesville. Oh my god, okay. Anyway, if there was an old-timey pirate's map of Miamisburg, on that map would be an Arby's. You know Arby's. They have the meats, or so they say. And it would seem they have more than that. Fun fact, I was well into my 30s before I learned that Arby's was a phonetic spelling for the letters R and B, which stand for roast beef, which I guess is the main menu offering at Arby's. However, Arby's Twitter account will tell you that the R and the B don't stand for roast beef, but are the initials of the founding brothers Leroy and Forrest Raffel. But not their actual initials, obviously. No, the initials stand for the Raffel brothers, which honestly to me sounds like some revisionist history trying to cover up for naming their fast food restaurant after a kind of lunch meat. And let's face it, LFs or FLs just isn't as catchy as Arby's. Anyway, literally none of that was important. Maybe on this old-timey pirate's map that I was talking about before I got really far off track, it would say, "Ye olde Arby's," and above that, the map would warn, "Here there be spirits," because, stranger, the Arby's in Miamisburg, formerly known as Holesville, is a well-known site of ghostly activity. When you enter the Miamisburg Arby's and order your Jamocha shake, you might get more than you paid for, although apparently it is the employees of this Arby's who have the most experience with otherworldly presences there. After all, a customer would have no reason to go into the Arby's basement, I hope, and it is the basement where the activity seems mostly to be centered. OhioExploration.com reports that people who do have occasion to enter the basement of the Arby's feel like they are being watched. Employees have heard children laughing and have seen strange shadows darting back and forth. Some people have said they felt their hair being pulled or that they had backed into something or someone that isn't actually there. Karen Lavin, who wrote the 2009 book Dayton Ghosts about hauntings in the Ohio area, speculated about the entity in the Arby's, saying, quote, "Perhaps he or she was fond of the potato cakes while alive and couldn't bear to be separated from them forever, ? End quote. Honestly, Karen, now I'd like to speak to your manager. But if you don't think the reports so far are eerie enough, it turns out the basement isn't the only place being haunted by ghoulies. Perhaps the most eerie is the repeated telling of a bald man in the kitchen just staring at the oven. Listen, at least he's bald, okay? There is actually nothing more terrifying than a hair in your roast beef. The hairless man has also been seen in the basement staring at what, I don't know. And there have been reports of hanging plants swinging around despite the complete absence of a breeze or any moving air in the building. Okay, first of all, I have yet to enter an Arby's with a single hanging plant. In fact, I can't think of a single fast food place I've ever been that had actual live plants in it. That Miamisburg Arby's sounds nice. Also, I really hope the utter lack of moving air is only an after-hours thing. It frankly sounds hellish to me to have a still, stagnant atmosphere in a place where many, many roast beef sandwiches are being pumped out. Haunting may not be the worst thing about working at that Arby's. Other reports of weird activity include things going missing. My question is, what things? Because if it's French fries or money, I don't know if management needs to be looking for ghosts. You know? Actually, I have other questions. What is causing all of this strange supernatural activity? And why is it centered in the Ohio suburbs? Did a bald man die there once? I do know that when I researched the area where this Arby's terrifies roast beef lovers, I discovered that the town is also the location of a prehistoric burial mound believed to have been built by the Adena culture. The mound has become perhaps the most recognizable historical landmark in Miamisburg, aside from the Arby's, obvi. According to legendsofamerica.com, quote, "From the years of about 1000 BC to about 1 AD, the Adena people were a group of well-organized societies that lived in parts of present-day Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New York." End quote. The Adena people were not a single band, but rather a group of indigenous people that shared similarities in artifact style, architecture, and other cultural practices, including a common burial and ceremonial system that included the building of mounds like the one in Miamisburg. And we went ahead and built an Arby's there. Is it possible that the Arby's is just one of possibly numerous locations in the town where ancient native spirits have been disturbed by the white man's relentless pursuit of progress and inexpensive, tasty meat sandwiches? I saw poltergeist.
You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why? Why?
The Raffel brothers started Arby's in Ohio in 1964, and eventually in 1984 it was sold via hostile takeover. So I guess the idea that Arby's founders could be the haint might not be so wacky after all. Maybe the guy who took it over hostilely was the bald guy. Maybe one of the Raffel brothers was bald. Seriously, who is that bald guy? What is wacky is that the Miamisburg Arby's is not the only haunted Arby's out there. There are numerous websites that recount the tales of the hauntings at another Arby's. Hauntedrooms.com says, quote, "One of the most haunted places in Colorado Springs is the local branch Arby's. For those searching for it, it's the one on Academy. The story goes that sometime in the mid-90s, the manager was shot in the parking lot by one of her employees. It is believed that she is the one who is responsible for some unexplained events in the restaurant," end quote. And RiseUpParanormal.com claims, quote, "People hear unexplained whispering in the lobby, and objects are moved around when the restaurant is empty. Many times, staff will place chairs on the tables to clean the floors, then move to another area, only to return and find the chairs placed back on the floor. There are reports of the apparition of a woman in the kitchen, and employees are hesitant to work by themselves," end quote. Not that I needed a reason to not get a job at Arby's, but yeah, no thanks. And listen, I get it. I'm sure that Arby's manager was paid next to nothing and probably not treated all that well, if my knowledge of working at fast food joints tells me anything. But then, to add insult to injury, she gets murdered not only in the parking lot of the place she has to spend most of her waking hours, but by some disgruntled employee? I'd haunt that place too if I were her. But before you go telling yourself that you'll never eat at an Arby's again because the chain seems particularly haunty, I have some bad news. It's not just Arby's that attracts the undead. Strangers, have you checked out Wild Grain yet? Wild Grain is the first Bake from Frozen subscription box for fresh breads, pastries, and pastas. My favorites right now are the Parmesan herb biscuits, which are the perfect base for a delicious breakfast sandwich. The giant chocolate chip cookies are a yummy treat, and the cranberry pecan rolls go great on their own or served with any meal. Everything bakes from frozen in 25 minutes or less, and the best part is there's nothing processed or fake in any of it. Your grocery store bread is shelf-stable because of the preservatives they put in it. With Wild Grain, you can keep your ready-to-bake items for up to a year in the freezer and bake them when you're ready to eat them. That means warm pastries for breakfast, fresh, warm, crusty bread with soup or olive oil, or fresh-baked cookies with no mess or cleanup. Are you ready to bring all your favorite carbs right to your doorstep? Be sure to check out Wild Grain so you can begin building your own box of artisanal breads, pastas, and pastries. For a limited time, Wild Grain is offering our listeners $30 off the first box, plus free croissants in every box, when you go to wildgrain.com/strange to start your subscription. You heard me, free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/strange. That's wildgrain.com/strange, or you can use promo code STRANGE at checkout. Now, I don't know about you, but around here, we always refer to a certain fast food chain as Taco Hell. The restaurant earned the nickname when, after eating there, I had to wonder if I had been possessed by a demon. The experience necessitated an apoplectic exorcism in the restroom, and I feel spooky whenever I drive by there now. It seems, though, that in Twinsburg, Ohio, I might have additional reasons to fear Taco Bell. According to Samantha Walk's 2018 piece about this particular Taco Bell on SoYummy.com, it has been called, quote, the most terrifying establishment in Twinsburg, end quote. Strong words, Samantha. Tell us more. Quote, guests and employees have spotted at least 4 ghosts within the location. A woodsman, a military veteran, a young girl dressed in white, and a teenage boy dressed in an old Taco Bell uniform who supposedly helps the living employees with their day-to-day tasks, end quote. And a partridge in a pear tree. Actually, it kind of sounds like a ghostly village people of late-stage capitalism. I am surprised to hear that a teenage ghost is helpful. That's more than I can say for any living teenagers I've met. Samantha goes on to say, quote, a customer reportedly had a run-in with the Taco Bell teen apparition, whom he asked for extra hot sauce. The teen, with dark circles under his eyes, did not acknowledge the customer, so the customer asked another employee, what's wrong with that guy? What guy? The other employee responded, end quote. Boo. Once again, stranger, this Taco Bell was reportedly built on top of an old cemetery. Maybe it was the same type of ancient burial mound as the Arby's, or maybe a more contemporary type of cemetery. I don't know, but I do wonder why Ohio seems riddled with this sort of thing. Is there any land in development that was not formerly a resting place of the dead? Actually, that's rhetorical. I'm pretty sure nearly every ancient burial ground in this country has been developed over. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot, after all. But are there any fast food places in Ohio that are not haunted? Yes, there are literally thousands. Regardless, let's get out of Ohio, shall we? Our next haunted meal will be at McDonald's in Lewiston, New York. In the case of this ghostly fast food place, it is inside one of the oldest buildings in this part of New York. The location is an imposing 4-story tall Federalist-style stone structure complete with 14 bedrooms and a ballroom. Frontier House, as it is called, was once one of the finest hotels in America. It was also known for being used for Freemason meetings. Frontier House changed hands many times over the decades and had different iterations before it eventually became a museum of local history with a restaurant attached, and then in 1973 it was damaged in a fire, following which in 1975 it was leased to McDonald's with the golden arches out front and everything. What a weird trajectory. According to a 2011 piece in thedailymeal.com by Coleman Andrews, the haunting of the McDonald's stems from its ties to the Freemasons. Quote, Frontier House had become a meeting place for Niagara County Freemasons, and a disaffected member of the organization, one William Morgan, began threatening to write a book revealing Masonic secrets. After being incarcerated briefly at Fort Niagara on trumped-up charges, Morgan was released, only to disappear. His body was never found, but the local rumor was that he had been killed by the Freemasons and his body immured in the walls of the hotel. Soon after Morgan's disappearance, hotel employees and guests began reporting strange occurrences, doors and windows opening and closing when no one was near them, unexplained banging in the middle of the night, silhouettes of old men glimpsed in empty rooms, end quote. Yes, that is creepy. The piece goes on to say, quote, when post-fire renovations were underway in the 1970s, tools and equipment would mysteriously vanish, though no bodies turned up between the walls, end quote. Or is that just what they want you to believe? Anyway, the piece talks about an alternate theory of the haunting in which, quote, a worker helping to build the place fell from a scaffold into the basement, and that it is his spirit that roams the building. Whatever their source, even under the golden arches, the hauntings appear to persist. An ABC TV reporter once cracked that customers sometimes get a shake, even if they order a Coke, end quote. Scary stuff. Now, if you want to experience a haunted McDonald's, but you don't want to visit a beautiful building that is a public landmark, or you are too far from the New York area, you could just visit the Idabel, Oklahoma McDonald's, where 2 different maintenance workers have reported seeing a little girl go into the men's room at about 5 a.m. I find several things about this concerning, but I can't say that my first thought is haunted. Anyway, Samantha Walks of SoYummy.com reports that, quote, a McDonald's employee later saw the door to the men's room open and remain open. When the employee checked to see if anyone was in there, no one was. All the toilets in the women's room flushed on their own. Another employee quit after she heard a little girl laughing in the women's room while she was there after hours, end quote. Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty haunted. Like the McDonald's has their very own moaning Myrtle, which reminds me, ever notice how often Harry Potter characters found themselves in bathrooms? And it wasn't like they were fighting trolls or villainous superpowers only in the bathrooms designated for their own genders. Maybe Hogwarts had gender-neutral bathrooms. Food for thought. But I digress. The SoYummy.com listing also says that people who go to the McDonald's in question sometimes report cold spots, a known symptom of haunting for those who believe, and computers turning on by themselves. No one knows who the little girl who's been seen and heard is or why she haunts the building. One website, beaversbendcreativeescape.com, speculates, quote, "Now we all know how children love McDonald's, the hamburgers, the fries, the shakes, the sundaes. This is Shangri-La to most kids. However, one little girl seems to not want to leave, and she seems to like the restrooms the best," end quote. Which is honestly kind of a weird take, but I guess when there's nothing else to go on, people will come up with things. Lord knows I do. I would tell you to check it out for yourself, stranger, but there are various comments out there claiming that the McDonald's in Idabel permanently closed in 2016 and that the building stands empty. I looked up the address in Google Maps to make sure, and it brought up the McDonald's listing with the address and phone number and a Google Earth image of the McDonald's drive-thru, giving the impression that the McDonald's is still in business. But then when I called the phone number, it went to the voicemail of a private individual, so I apologize for bothering that lady, and I submit to you that that McDonald's is closed after all. Or maybe Google Earth is haunted. The ghost is in the machine. Our next haunted fast food spot is a Pizza Hut in Glendale, Arizona. The Glendale Pizza Hut, like the Idabel McDonald's, seems to be haunted mainly by the spirits of children, as evidenced by the phantom baby cries and disembodied children's voices witnesses have reported, as well as by the little girl some employees have supposedly seen playing under the tables that they somehow knew was not a living human child. Maybe she was there after hours too? A former manager also said that the faucets in the Pizza Hut were known to turn on by themselves, causing the lobby to flood on at least one occasion. People have seen things fly off the shelves, and not in that way where the pizza is just so good it flew off the shelves. I'm from New York. You can't fool me. Pizza Hut ain't good. Rumor has it that the building where the Pizza Hut is housed was formerly a funeral home, which I suppose could explain all the creepy paranormal activity. I couldn't actually find anything supporting that claim, though, aside from a comment on the Pizza Hut's listing on hauntedplaces.com. The same commenter also makes a claim that someone shot themselves by the shed outside the restaurant. Quote, "This building used to be a morgue or mortuary back in the day. It's a very old building. Also, a few years back, there was a suicide outside next to the shed. Guy put a gun to his head. This place is definitely haunted." End quote. Right. Definitely. Stranger, if you have ever been to a Pizza Hut, you will remember that like all corporate businesses, they look virtually identical. They all have that iconic Devo hat roof and the red booths. None of the buildings that house Pizza Huts are very old, unless you mean very old like I am very old, but like not frontier house old. That McDonald's has a good reason to claim being haunted. The building is truly old. Old with an E. But then, again, look at the burial mound Arby's. Maybe we have the wrong idea about these hauntings. Maybe it's not the building that is haunted, but the land. What stretch of land in America, or anywhere for that matter, hasn't at one time or another been the site of something horrific? What land hasn't seen bloodshed or injustice? In the USA, I'd venture there isn't a swatch of land out there untouched by something dark, something that left death and pain in its wake. At a Papa John's in Seymour, Indiana, a police officer who allegedly died nearby is said to still patrol in his ghostly form and has appeared to employees of that establishment. Witnesses to that haunting say you can hear knocking on the walls of the Papa John's coming from the vacant building next door. I tried to verify that the neighboring building is in fact vacant, but couldn't find any images or information on that. What I did find was a bunch of other fast food style buildings that looked vacant along the same stretch of road. It seems possible that the area where the Papa John's is located is a bit depressed, which might give it a spooky vibe. There is more than one kind of haunted. According to a very hard-hitting journalistic piece on HuffPost.com called The 10 Weirdest Places That Are Totally Haunted by Ghosts and Stuff, a Burger King in West Palm Beach, Florida is also haunted. In this case, though, we aren't just talking about weird knocking sounds or even an elusive ethereal figure. In this case, the spirit haunting the restaurant has tricked employees more than once into thinking he is a living person. The article tells us that a former janitor, quote, claims to have chased a young man around the restaurant twice, only to have the young person disappear before his eyes both times. The janitor then quit out of fear. The night manager and 2 assistant managers also later reported seeing the young ghost. Customers may also have seen this so-called Burger Prince, end quote. Oh my God, Burger Prince. Get it? Because it's at a Burger King and he's young. Again, I tried to verify these stories with other sources, but the links to the sites that once hosted the information I was after led nowhere, which so often seems to be the case with these hauntings. At this point, my cynical side begins to rear its head a bit, and I begin to wonder, a bit harshly maybe, if all these haunted burger, pizza, taco joints are just regular burger, pizza, taco joints that people have made up stories about. And then I read something harder to dismiss. Employees of a Starbucks in Hawaii claim the store they worked in is haunted. They say the CD player stops at 10:51 p.m. every night. Employees have tried playing different music to no effect. No matter if they play Rick James, James Taylor, or Taylor Swift, at 10:51, silence. And that's not all. A tall, dark figure wearing khaki pants has been seen in the store. Okay, well, that doesn't mean much. Maybe it was just a person who wanted a venti iced scankachino or whatever they sell there. But hey, the computer system acts up too, which I am sure never happens in unhaunted Starbucks. Still, it's bad enough that employees have set up cameras to try to catch something. But the cameras also would not work properly. The blog AustinGhostTours.com posted about the Hawaii Starbucks haunting in 2023. In the posting, a former employee shares her experience at the Starbucks and gives more details. Quote, "The Starbucks I was hired at back in Hawaii had a lot of oddities. Our back room was more like a hallway, and the BOH desk was right next to our high-temp Hobart. But that single corner of the room always temped at 55 degrees Fahrenheit, no matter how long that dishwasher was running. Inexplicable." End quote. The blog mentions the malfunctioning CD player and then gives an account of a personal ghost sighting. Quote, "One day, I was the only one on the floor. My barista had to use the restroom, and we're in a mall, so he was out of the store. Thought he was walking back and forth getting his apron and things together, but when I saw him walking back up the stairs to the entrance of the store, I was flabbergasted. Who was walking around in the back out of the corner of my eye? I saw this figure move around a lot after that day, nearly every shift. He looked like a man around 5'10" with black hair, slight spikes, wearing khakis. I hadn't mentioned what I saw or what I've described to anyone until I started working with this guy named RJ. He was on POS one day and said, 'Oh shit,' real loud, and I asked him what's up, and he said he swore he saw someone walk past in the hallway. He swore he saw it again an hour later. I asked him if he could tell me what it looked like. He said, looked like one man, tall as me, black hair, kinda spiked, and he got khaki pants on." End quote. So obviously this freaked the former Starbucks chick out some, but it continues. Quote, "As we started talking about this, a really loud shrieking noise came from the back. The Hobart started wigging out, displaying all kinds of error codes, flashing them quickly before turning itself off. I was able to turn it back on with no incident." End quote. She goes on to say that the employees tried to review the security footage, but that the footage for that moment was blank. So weird. She says that the feed to the closed circuit was never actually operational, even though it was displayed on screen. Oh, boogity boogity. As I delved deeper into this account and looked for corroborating stories, it became clear that the Austin Ghost Tours blog had gotten this account from, you guessed it, stranger, a Reddit thread all about hauntings in various Starbucks. There are many stories like the one I shared, but are any of these real? Also, from what I hear, working at Starbucks is a pretty horrific experience, even if there are no hauntings.
Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals. Based on a randomized, controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto, results will vary depending on diet and exercise. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. It's easy to find time to eat well with 50 wholesome, hassle-free meals to choose from each week delivered to your door. Their lineup of prep and bake meals come together with minimal mess and only 5 minutes of prep. So your oven does most of the work, not you. Get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/HelloFreshPodcast. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
At a Dairy Queen in St. Anthony, Minnesota, there have been more disembodied children's laughter and the sound of names being called out when only employees have been present. Sometimes orders would print out even though none had been entered into the system. Things have fallen off shelves and more cold spots have been felt. One customer says they left a camera on their table and it fell off even though no one was near the table. One employee told stories of things falling, of the ice cream machine turning itself on and ice cream pouring onto the floor, and lights turning off on their own as workers were closing up for the night to go home. The funny thing is that this same employee also said he never felt like the DQ was haunted, a sentiment shared by other employees who shrug off the stories of strange happenings. Hauntedplaces.org quotes a poster named Maureen who says this Dairy Queen might be her grandfather's store. Quote, "This is possibly the Dairy Queen my grandpa owned long ago, and if so, there is a chance he may be the spirit here. My mom thought it may be him when I told her about it. I still need to come check the place out." End quote. Once again, the stories of these hauntings are intriguing, but consistently difficult to corroborate, and therefore, for me, difficult to believe. I am, as you know, a cautious skeptic. I once knew a guy who had convinced his father, who lived on a boat, that the boat was haunted. Whenever his father was out, my friend would strategically place ice cubes underneath knickknacks and picture frames so that when the ice cubes melted, the items would fall. The man was convinced he had a boat ghost. Just seems so possible to me that some of these stories of hauntings could easily be coworkers messing with each other. If I can extend my suspension of disbelief to include the widespread haunting of various fast food joints across the nation, it is not because of these accounts, but more because what type of place sees more humanity than fast food restaurants? From folks of all stripes traversing the country for pleasure, to those relocating, to those merely commuting to and from busy work or school days, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Taco Bell, Dunkin' Donuts, and the others like them welcome the traffic of countless souls. All of those people are living vessels of mundanity or joy or frustration, anger, fear, love, poverty, fatigue, and any other human thing a person can experience. I am sure fast food places are the unsung sights of many great, horrible, weird, and funny human experiences. It makes sense that the residue of all that humanity might rub off. It makes sense that these corporate, predictable, unromantic, utilitarian environments might attract the uncanny spirit of those who have departed this earth in chaotic circumstances, if such a thing is possible. So yes, I can get my head around the possibility of fast food hauntings, whether or not the accounts of such things are reliable. It may seem like a crazy or odd or unconventional way to spend an afterlife, but one thing you can say about people, we certainly do want to have it our way. And if that means eternity in the fry station at the Long John Silver's, so be it. Next time on Strange and Unexplained. In the late spring of 1992, 3 women went missing from their home in Springfield, Missouri. More than 30 years later, after bungled police work, wild goose chases, and red herrings, we're no closer to knowing what happened to the Springfield 3. Strange and Unexplained is a production of Three Goose Entertainment with help from Grab Bag Collab. This episode was written by Eve Kerrigan and me, Daisy Egan, with research by Keely Hayes. Sound design and engineering by Jeff Devine. Music by Epidemic and Blue Dot Sessions. If you have an idea for an episode, head to our website, strangeandunexplainedpod.com, and fill out the contact form. I will write back. For more amazing content, join us at patreon.com/grabbagcollab, where for just $5 a month you get all the Grab Bag exclusive shows, and for $8 you get those, plus Amber Hunt's Crimes of the Centuries and Strange and Unexplained early and ad-free. Grab Bag is an all-female and non-binary owned profit share network where our contributors get to keep ownership of their shows. We strive to give a platform to those who might not be able to land themselves on a bigger network. Who knows? Maybe you have a podcast idea you'd like to pitch to Grab Bag. We've got live recordings, watch parties, book clubs, and more. Why there's so much going on over at Grab Bag, you'll wonder if we missed the memo on how capitalism works. Join me on Instagram at SNUPod, Daisy Egan, and Grab Bag Collab, or head to the Facebook page to join in the conversation. If you like the show, please visit a sponsor with our unique code, give us a quick review and 5 stars, subscribe and download, and tell a friend. Stay strange.